What is more dangerous than an open military invasion? Not tanks crossing borders. Not bombs falling on distant cities. But a coup unfolding within the heart of a nation, where the puppet master does not need to appear on the battlefield, does not need to wear a uniform, and does not need to fire a single shot. On the morning of September 11, 1973, the sky over Santiago was unusually gloomy. The sound of military jet engines tore through the air. La Moneda Palace, the symbol of the Chilean Republic's authority, burned amid smoke and fire. Inside, President Salvador Allende, elected by the people's vote, refused to surrender. A few hours later, Allende was dead. Augusto Pinochet took power. And the United States made a brief declaration: "We did not directly intervene." But history is not written only by what people do. It is also written by the conditions created that force others to act. And the great question of the 20th century is: if there was no intervention, why did every piece of that coup fit together so perfectly? To understand that, we must go back to the year 1970. At that time, Chile was one of the rare South American nations with a stable democratic tradition. No endless coups, no prolonged military dictatorship. And on that very soil, something unprecedented in the history of the Cold War occurred. Salvador Allende, a Marxist politician, was elected president through free elections. He did not come to power by guns. Not through armed revolution. But through legitimate ballots. For Chile's left-wing citizens, it was a source of hope. For Washington, it was a strategic nightmare. In the context of the Cold War, the greatest fear of the United States was not a communist country, but a Marxist country succeeding through democratic means. Because if Chile could do it, other countries might follow. Henry Kissinger, U.S. National Security Advisor, once said in a closed-door meeting, a statement later declassified: "I don't see why we need to stand by and watch a country become communist just because its people are irresponsible." That was not merely a harsh remark. It was the strategic mindset guiding the entire U.S. policy toward Chile. And the issue was not only ideological. Chile was the world's largest copper exporter. Copper was not just a metal, it was the backbone of modern industry. U.S. corporations such as Anaconda and Kennecott controlled most of the mining sector. When Allende nationalized resources, those enormous economic interests were directly threatened. From that moment on, the question in Washington was no longer whether to intervene, but rather, how to intervene without leaving traces. The U.S. strategy was not loud, not public, and most importantly, it did not require ordering a coup. Declassified CIA documents show that Washington pursued two parallel paths. The first path, paralyzing the Allende government from within. The United States pressured international financial institutions such as the IMF and the World Bank to stop extending credit to Chile. Foreign currency flows were choked. An import-dependent economy plunged into crisis. Inflation soared. Food and fuel shortages spread. At the same time, opposition media were supported to amplify social discontent. Strikes spread. Trucks, the lifeline of the economy, ceased operating. People lined up for bread. The objective was very clear: to collapse the economy, then blame Allende. The second path, engaging with the military. The CIA maintained secret contacts with multiple Chilean generals. Not just one. Not just Pinochet. Washington did not need to choose who would stage the coup. They only needed to ensure that when the coup occurred, the United States would not object. This is the key point many people misunderstand. The US did not command the coup. The US created an environment in which a coup became the most reasonable option for the Chilean military. And then Augusto Pinochet emerged. A little known fact: before 1973, Pinochet was not a notable figure. He was regarded as a disciplined officer, loyal to the Constitution, not extreme, not prominent. For that reason, he was not on any power's list of preferred candidates. But it was precisely that obscurity that made Pinochet perfect. He aroused no suspicion. He was easily accepted within the military hierarchy. And when the moment came, he acted without hesitation. On September 11, 1973, everything unfolded like a machine that had already been oiled. The Navy mutinied first. The Air Force bombed La Moneda Palace. The army advanced into Santiago. Salvador Allende was surrounded. He had the opportunity to leave the country. But he refused. In his final radio address, his voice was strangely calm. "I believe in Chile and in its destiny." A few hours later, Allende was dead. To this day, his death remains disputed. But what is not disputed is this: Chilean democracy died with him. Pinochet assumed power almost immediately. And the United States recognized the new government with remarkable speed. There were no condolences. No condemnations. Only strategic silence, sometimes heavier than words. What followed was one of the darkest periods in Chilean history. Under Pinochet's regime, tens of thousands were tortured. More than 3,000 were killed or disappeared. The National Stadium was turned into a detention camp. Pinochet did not merely suppress the opposition. He built a systematized terror state. At the same time, Chile became a laboratory for neoliberal economics, prompting many Western governments to turn a blind eye to human rights violations. And here, history poses a difficult question. Is not acting, but creating the conditions innocent? The 1973 Chilean coup was not a single-track conspiracy. Nor was it a chessboard where the United States controlled every piece. It was the convergence of geopolitical interests, deliberately induced economic crisis, and individuals willing to cross moral boundaries. Chile became a classic lesson of the 20th century. About the fragility of democracy. About the ethical limits of foreign policy. And about the price paid when strategic stability is placed above human lives. History does not end with gunfire. It continues in memory. And the question Chile left behind, to this day, still has no definitive answer.